it really does seem like in recent months, the only news coming out about Disney Star Wars has been pretty negative, most notably the Acolyte becoming a colossal failure for them, so much so that Disney broke from their usual patterns of just ignoring something when they don't want to deal with it and actually going out and announcing that they're canceling any future seasons of the Acolyte. And I think that was them to try to settle some of the worries with their shareholders by saying like, hey, don't worry about us losing a lot more money on the Acolyte season 2 because we're done with that. And then most recently, though, we heard news about how Rey lost another writer, or at least the Rey Star Wars movie lost another writer because they couldn't find anything that worked with Kathleen Kennedy and what she was actually envisioning for that project. And this is kind of par for the course or something to expect when it comes to Disney Star Wars, because they have a bad habit of announcing projects, hiring on people to work on those projects, and then nothing ever happens with that right now. And that's where we're getting to the topic of today's story, because we got this being reported from Deadline. Star Wars Trilogy deal. Lucasfilm tapped Simon Kinberg to write and produce. And for people who don't know, he's one of the writers for Star Wars Rebels. So he's worked with Dave Filoni on that one. And he's also directed and written some other major studio films like the more recent X-Men movies. So I can see why they would think he would be someone who would actually be a good fit to do a Star Wars trilogy. But like I was kind of alluding to, I'm not necessarily convinced with 100% certainty right now that this will actually move forward, because we have seen stuff like this in the past and nothing ever transpired from it. Exclusive Lucasfilm has closed the deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. I heard this will comprise episode 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas's 1977 film. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Insiders dispute my intel that Kinberg will continue the storyline, saying this will instead begin a new saga and sit alongside Star Wars percolating projects with James Mangold, Sherman Obaid-Chinoy, Taika Waititi, and Donald Glover. As usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. So it sounds like from this that it's not necessarily that it's not confirmed that he's not doing it or anything like that. I think that's something that we can assume it's actually happening. What's up in the air is whether or not he's going to be doing episode 10 through 12. It's saying that that's kind of disputed right now. It could just be he's doing a trilogy that's completely separated. And I think that makes a lot more sense since the Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's project, she's going to be directing Rey. I think it would be more likely that that project is going to be episode 10 through 12, since it's kind of a direct sequel to what they're doing. So it'd make more sense that what this planned trilogy is, if it's actually true, would just be kind of a standalone thing. But again, I'm not entirely convinced that this will happen, specifically because you see all these other projects, James Mangold, Taika Waititi, Donald Glover. Donald Glover is working on Lando, and it was, I forget where the status of it now. I know it was like a movie, then it was a show, or it started off as a show, then it became a movie. I can't remember exactly which way it went, but it was one of those things, and we haven't had a whole lot of information about that for quite some time now. Taika Waititi, the only other information about that is that he's supposed to be directing and writing some Star Wars projects for them, or some movies, and he's even said that he hasn't really been working on it. James Mangold, his stuff is still kind of up in the air. In fact, he's actually been, I think his movie is supposed to move forward, because it was announced when Rey lost their writer that James Mangold's project's actually going to kind of jump it in the release schedule. So it's going to be released, I believe, next year or the year before, or the year after, something like that, followed by the Rey movie, whereas Rey was supposed to come out first, but there's issues with that. So maybe James Mangold's project is going to move forward, but the other ones, I'm not so sure. Kinberg previously worked with Lucasfilm in co-creating with Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck, the Emmy-nominated animated series Rebels. Okay, talked about that. He was also a consultant on Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. He has also been heavily involved in other franchises as writer and co-producer. So I've already talked about that kind of stuff. Just saying he's producing Stephen King's The Running Man. That's supposed to come out, directed by Edgar Wright. So that's really all we have on this right now. But just kind of jumping back to what Disney has announced so far. This is the current slate of Star Wars project that they've announced so far. So the releases, some Mandalorian and Grogu. We know that that's actually going to be getting made. A new Rey movie, that's still up in the air. James Mangold's projects, Dave Filoni Star Wars movie. He's at Lucasfilm right now as the chief creative officer, so I imagine that's going to happen, but we just don't know anything else about it. Taika Waititi, I think that's pretty much dead in the water what he plans on doing. Sean Levy Star Wars movie, we'll see. Lando, maybe. Rian Johnson, that's not going to happen. They just haven't actually announced that they're canceling it just yet. Rogue Squadron, Kevin Feige Star Wars movies. Oh, I know this is saying this is one that's been canceled that they confirmed that they're not doing anymore. Other canceled movies. What did they have in here? Yeah, not a whole lot in here, but still the point remains that they don't really like to announce that they're canceling stuff. They just prefer what I said in the past is they'll announce something because whenever Disney announces a project, that generates a lot of buzz surrounding them and surrounding Star Wars. So then there'll be investors coming in like, oh, they're doing a new Star Wars thing, so let's invest in Disney as a result of all this. And then later on down the road, that nothing ever happens with it because it literally costs nothing for them to announce a project. They can announce whatever project they want. Obviously, if they do it too often, if they say we're going to release 1,000 Star Wars things next year, I'm just being ridiculous as kind of an example, people will know that that's bunk. But when they kind of come out and just make these little announcements every now and then or whatever, and it sounds kind of reasonable, then they can generate a lot of hype surrounding them. And then eventually they'll be like, oh, creative differences, or we just kind of find something that worked. And that's why we never actually finished the project, or why that person left the project. And then it just kind of ended right there. And I wouldn't be surprised if this latest announcement is just going to be another one of those situations where they're announcing it, where maybe they're actually talking with him about doing something. He agrees that he wants to do something. They might even have signed some, preliminary deal with him or whatever, where he starts developing it. But it's not as if when Disney announces Star Wars projects because when people think that they announce a project, it means there's actually a script, or they have a contract with them that they're going to be doing this definitely, or they're about to go into production or something like that. That's not what happens. What normally happens is, at least when the impression I'm getting is, they start talking with the creative behind it. They come up with an idea like, okay, let's do something. They hear their pitch. They're like, okay, we like your pitch for this, so we'll sign a preliminary deal with you to try to, I guess you can call that a contract, to actually start developing it. But it doesn't mean that it's actually going to make it to screen. It just means that they're going to start working on it. But Disney likes to announce those things because it does generate a lot of hype. There's a lot of, just right now, I pulled up Deadline for this, but there's a lot of other media outlets all reporting on this because this is big news if there's a new Star Wars trilogy coming out. So for a while, Disney will be getting a lot of headlines in a positive way saying like, yeah, they're going to be making these new Star Wars things. And then sometime down the road, if nothing ever happens with that, all right, fine. It didn't cost them anything, but by just putting out a statement though, and being vague on the details, not actually commenting to these media outlets like it says right here, it's going to help them out quite a bit and generate positive buzz for them. So right now, until we get more concrete information or something that's solid to say that this is actually moving forward, or there's something set in stone that they're going to make this, I have to almost treat this as if it's just a rumor right now. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.